Now, boys and girls and young people, we're thinking this morning of another of the Mr. Men, and this time I want us to think about Mr. Strong. Let me read a verse from the Bible. In Psalm 24 and verse 8 we read this. Who is this King of glory? The Lord strong and mighty, the Lord mighty in battle. Psalm 24 verse 8, I believe, introduces us to the strongest man that ever lived. You see, in the Mr. Men series, Mr. Strong could do amazing things. When he was playing with the children, he could lift boys and girls above his head and twirl them round. If a person had an accident in their car, well, they didn't need a tow truck because Mr. Strong came along and he lifted the car out of the ditch. I was thinking, of course, of that competition known as the world's strongest man that's on the television. And of course, they can lift boulders on their shoulder and they can run a distance carrying that weight. Some of them are so strong that they could pull a lorry with a rope. Others could lift a car with their bare hands. See, that got me thinking, who is the most strongest man in the world? Could I tell you this morning? The Lord Jesus Christ is the strongest man in the world. We could think about Samson, but he's even stronger than Samson. Think of these words, the Lord strong and mighty, the Lord mighty in battle. You see, the Lord Jesus came into the world to do battle with the devil, to do battle with depravity, that's our sinfulness, and to do battle with death. And when the Lord Jesus died on the cross, he conquered the devil, he conquered death, and he conquered the depravity of our sinfulness. Remember, whenever he was on the cross, they mocked and laughed at him. They said to him, save thyself, come down from the cross. They whispered, he saved others, but himself he couldn't save. But remember, after he died and was buried, he had already told his disciples, I will rise again. And of course, the Lord Jesus rose again bodily from the dead. And he is the one who is the Lord strong and mighty. The Lord strong and mighty in battle. And that's the character of Mr. Strong. Now, think of this. The comfort of Mr. Strong. You see, in the Mr. Men series, when there was a need, they called for Mr. Strong to come and help, and he came to their aid. Many of us have fears and problems and difficulties. And oftentimes we need the Lord's help. And we can go to him and we can ask him. Remember, he created the world. He planted the trees in the beginning. He formed the mountains. He hangs the stars in their sky. He, in fact, sets the bound for the sea so that it only comes a certain distance and doesn't come any further. Why doesn't it sweep over the whole of the land? Because he holds it by his mighty power. Did you ever think of the sun and the moon and the stars, why they just don't fall out of the heavens? Well, he holds them by his power. And you see, we can take comfort from that. If he is so strong to do all this, that he created the world and by him it's all held together, then he can help us with every fear and every problem and every worry and every concern that we have. One other thing. Think of the communication of Mr. Strong. Remember, the Bible tells us, and I gave this text to one of the girls not so long ago, Philippians 4 verse 13, Paul says, I can do all things through Christ which strengtheneth me. You see, the Lord Jesus told Joshua after Moses' death, when he became the leader of the children of Israel to lead them into the promised land and across the Jordan River, The Lord said to him 3 times in Joshua 1, only be strong and of a good courage, because Joshua was full of fear. And how could Joshua be strong? How could he be of a good courage? Well, certainly not in his own ability or by his own strength. The truth is that the strongest person who ever lived communicates his strength and ability to us by his grace. And of course, that's how Samson was made strong. Samson wasn't just strong because he had 7 lovely locks of hair. That was only a symbol. Samson was strong because he was made strong by the mighty power of God. And do you know what we discovered when we were out in Israel? Samson carried the gates of Gaza to the city of Hebron, and that's about 40 miles. Imagine carrying a set of gates above your head, 40 miles. Well, that's what Samson did. How did he do it? By the strength of the Lord. And how can you get through next week? How are you going to cope when you face your exams? How are you going to face some unruly person in the school or in the workplace? You'll not do it in your own strength and power. Think of the communication of Mr. Strong. Not only can he speak a word and tell you to be strong, but he communicates his power to you. So I leave that thought with you. Mr. Strong, I haven't told you the story of Mr. Strong. You'll have to read it for yourself. But you think of the character. Who's the strongest man that ever lived? It's the Lord Jesus, because he battled death, the devil, and our depravity, all by his cross work, and he triumphed over them in it. And you think of the comfort that brings, because he can come to us, and he can help us in our time of need. And he communicates his mighty strength to us, so that we can do things in his name. I can do all things through Christ, which strengtheneth me. The Lord bless you today, and I mean that most sincerely.